So I just wanted to go over some information about giving you context for the hackathon I did last Sunday. Um, Basically, one of our partners, one of the people in my group, Shri, she used to be a lab scientist, and as a lab scientist, she had to deal with a lot of different issues. Firstly, whenever she did her experiment, she had a lot of lab equipment on. She had the gloves, she had the coat, she had the goggles, she had the hairnet. Um, Sometimes she even had more equipment. And so, let's say she was running an experiment and she was dealing with some chemicals. She would have to put on her gloves and then she'd have to take them off, enter the data, or somehow remember the data, and then enter it later. And entering data was always a hassle, especially with all the equipment. Um, there were safety issues, and let's say you were in the lab and you were very engrossed in experiment. What if the temperature went up, the pressure went up, and you have maybe you have some sensors that see it, but you have to periodically check in with the sensors, and that takes time away and takes your focus away. Also, sometimes she'd have to do the same calculation over. Let's say she was running uh, an experiment like I don't know, just any experiment, and then she had to run the same experiment again and again and again. She'd have to calculate the data, like you have to redo all the steps, and while redoing all the steps, she had to redo all the calculations. Let's say you might have to use the same equation 10 times, 100 times, do it all by hand, and it can get very tedious. Also, sometimes she's switching between multiple experiments. So she might forget, let's say she's doing three two-lone experiments, and let's say she's in the first experiment, and then she's doing step two of the first experiment, and then she's doing step three of the second experiment. And there's a lot of context switching, and you might forget which experiment you're on, what step you're on. So remembering those details can also be an issue. In the end, lab scientist sounds like a stressful job. I'm glad I'm in computer science, but just to make their lives easier, we made a tool. So here were the agents that we added. We added a voice agent. So basically, if you wanted to record data, um, or just this agent actually was enabling all the other agents. So we'll get to the data collection later. But basically, you can record your voice, and the way I remember it was used is say record 5 milliliters, and it would record the data inside. Then we had the data collection agent. This basically showed uh, the values of all the data you've collected live, and it would interact with the voice agent. Also, we had the intelligent computing agent. So there were certain steps where you had to make calculations with different equations, and the agent would make the calculations for you. For example, let's say you had the reagent amounts and you needed to find you had some measurements and you had the molar ratios and you had to find the reagent amounts. You had to do some sort of calculations and it will do it for you basically. Then we had the safety monitor. For the purposes of this hackathon, since we're not in a lab, we didn't have actual sensors. But what we did was we had a data stream that kept going, and we had temperature and pressure. So basically, if the temperature and pressure, either temperature or pressure rose to a certain level, it would trigger a warning and automatically stop the all the other agents and the notebook, or the it would stop the experiment basically. This is good because like sometimes if you're super dialed into the lab, you might forget to look at the sensor and it could cause issues. Lastly, we had a chatbot. This chatbot would let you know what experiment you're on. It would give you context on the experiment. You could even answer certain questions. Um, Yeah, and so the architecture we had was we had Streamlit for the front end. Streamlit is fully in Python since a lot of us weren't web development experts, so we weren't super good with JavaScript and HTML at the time. Um, then we had Python classes. So the Python classes for each of the six agents. Then we had Crew AI. So Crew AI is integration that helps multiple MCP agents talk to each other. So we use that in our code too. We also use Whisper for audio capturing. Um, and then we had a Gemini and Claude integration for the chatbot. We also use Weave integration. So Weave has their own website where um, you you can use the Weave library to connect to your agents, and then when you're trying to debug your agents, like let's say one agent is not talking to the other agent, um, Weave will show you logs and help with the observability. So we had the integration, but it was mostly for debugging purposes. Yeah, and as far as future improvements, if we had more time, we would and more resources, we would be able to integrate. Currently, we have the experiment. We have to enter kind of the parameters of the experiment. So let's say we're running an experiment, we have to enter the steps, we have to enter the equations and how to record the data. But um, what we could do as a future would be we do have electronic notebooks where people have their labs, and we could have integration that automatically takes the notebooks and puts it into the steps. Also, currently, we need whenever we use the voice agent, we need to do a click. So we need to click into the voice agent, and then we can use our voice to record the data. Um, the idea is if the full vision is that we would not need to click, and we could just do everything through voice. So navigation through voice, context through voice, like saying, "Hey, we need to record the data," and then saying, "Hey, we need to switch to the experiment." That's the whole idea of using the voice agent. Um, another integration idea we had was um, let's say we're running three experiments and maybe the toluene or the some of the element like some of the chemicals are running low. So we'd also have an integration that shows the supplies of all the different chemicals, and if it's running low, it would connect to the web and would order new ones for us. Um, and then lastly, another idea we had was um, let's say we run multiple experiments. You might even add some data science and machine learning algorithms to learn from those results and gather insights. Yeah. In the other video, we have the demo done by Shri.